If you had told me a year ago that my best friend since third grade would sleep with my fiancé and wear my wedding dress to the ceremony, I would have laughed in your face. Not her. Not Chloe. Chloe and I were practically sisters. From playground pinky promises to dorm room sleepovers, we were always in each other's lives. She was the first person I told when I fell in love with Ethan, and when he proposed to me during a weekend cabin trip, she cried happy tears. Or so I thought. Our wedding was going to be everything I ever dreamed of. A summer garden ceremony, simple but beautiful. We were doing it right. White flowers, soft jazz, handwritten vows. The kind of wedding you pin to a vision board. Chloe was going to be my maid of honor. That felt like the easiest choice of all. She helped with planning, came with me to every dress fitting, and even stayed up late with me hand-making tiny party favors that matched our theme. Every bride deserves a best friend like that, right? Ethan and I had been together for almost 4 years. We weren't perfect, but we were stable. We knew each other inside out, or so I believed. He wasn't the overly romantic type, but he was dependable, grounded. He didn't do drama, and I liked that. And for a while, everything just worked. The final month before the wedding was stressful, like everyone says. Vendor delays, last-minute RSVPs, color swatch decisions. But through it all, Chloe was my rock. Or that's how it looked on the outside. Looking back now, I realize how naive I was. There were moments, little red flags, the kind you tuck away because facing them feels worse than ignoring them. Like how Chloe would sometimes show up late to planning meetings with Ethan, always with some vague excuse. Or the way she joked about how hot he looked in his suit during our final fitting. I laughed it off. I didn't want to be that girl. Paranoid, controlling, insecure. I trusted them. Trust. That word hits different now. Anyway, a week before the wedding, I remember standing in my living room surrounded by candles and scrapbooks and whispering to myself, "This is it. This is going to be the happiest day of my life." I had no clue that it was actually going to be the beginning of the biggest betrayal I'd ever face. The strange thing about betrayal is, it doesn't usually hit all at once. It trickles in like a leak in the ceiling, silent at first, barely noticeable, until everything comes crashing down. About 3 weeks before the wedding, I started feeling this weird energy. I couldn't explain it. Ethan became distant, not cold, not angry, just distracted, like his mind was somewhere else, even when he was right in front of me. At first, I chalked it up to wedding stress. Everyone says grooms freak out a little, right? Cold feet, nerves, the whole deal. I didn't want to overthink it. But then Chloe started acting off too. She'd cancel plans last minute, miss calls. When she did answer, she sounded rushed, like she didn't want to talk long. One night, I FaceTimed her while she said she was home organizing her speech. She didn't pick up, but I heard her background noise in a voice memo she sent later, and it didn't sound like her apartment. It sounded like Ethan's playlist. Still, I ignored it, because I had to. I was 2 weeks away from marrying the man I loved. My best friend was my maid of honor. The venue was paid for. The guests had booked flights. My dress was hanging in my closet. Everything was set. But little things kept piling up. Chloe sent the wrong flower order to the florist and brushed it off like it wasn't a big deal. Ethan skipped our final menu tasting with a vague excuse about work, even though he's a remote designer who can make his own schedule. My mom even mentioned that Chloe and Ethan seemed weirdly close during a family BBQ. I laughed. "They're just friends," I told her. "They're the two people who love me the most." That sentence haunts me now. The night before the rehearsal dinner, I caught Chloe whispering on the phone in my guest room. She said, "She doesn't know. We're still good." I asked who she was talking to, and she smiled too big and said, "My sister. She's freaking out over a blind date." It was a lie. I could feel it in my gut. But again, I swallowed it down. I needed the weekend to go smoothly. That night, I lay awake next to Ethan, watching him sleep. I told myself I was being paranoid. I blamed stress. I blamed myself. I even blamed hormones. The only people I didn't blame were the ones I should have. I wish I had listened to my instincts. I wish I had asked harder questions. Because the truth was staring me in the face. I just didn't want to believe it. The morning before my wedding, I woke up early. Something in me just couldn't rest. My nerves were wired, but it wasn't the usual pre-wedding excitement. It felt heavy, like something was off. Chloe had slept over that night, and I heard her phone buzz on the kitchen counter while she was in the shower. I wasn't trying to snoop, I swear. I was just grabbing coffee. But the preview on her lock screen stopped me cold. It was a message from Ethan. It said, "Last night was everything. Can't believe tomorrow she'll be your wife." I stared at the screen so long I forgot how to breathe. My heart dropped and I just froze. I wanted to believe it was some twisted misunderstanding, but my gut told me the truth. It wasn't a joke. It wasn't fake. It was real. The two people I trusted most had been sneaking around behind my back. I didn't confront her. Not right away. I couldn't. My hands were shaking so bad I dropped the mug I was holding. Chloe came out of the bathroom and gave me this casual good morning, like nothing was wrong. I smiled. I actually smiled back. I felt numb, but I was already thinking, processing. What was I going to do? Cancel the wedding, run away, confront them in private, or make them both regret everything? I stayed quiet all morning, but that afternoon, I logged into Ethan's email. He'd given me access months ago for sending invites. And sure enough, there were months of messages, late-night meetups, hidden hotel charges, complaints about how needy I was. It was like reading a diary of two people I didn't even know. They weren't just cheating, they were plotting, making fun of me, planning to keep lying even after the wedding. I was sick to my stomach. And then, I saw the last message. Chloe had written, "She's too naive. Once we're married, I'll just back off. But you know it's always going to be us." That was it. That was the moment everything inside me snapped. No more crying, no more pity. I was going to give them a show they'd never forget. The morning of the wedding, I put on my makeup, like everything was normal. I smiled in every photo. I hugged guests. I played my part perfectly because that was the plan. They weren't going to see it coming. I'd already called the venue coordinator the night before and told her I'd be handling a slight change in schedule. I gave her my pre-recorded video file on a flash drive and told her to play it right before the ceremony. She looked confused, but I just said, "Trust me, it'll make sense." Then I got dressed. Chloe wasn't in the bridal suite. She'd said she had a headache and needed time alone. I later found out she was sneaking off to see Ethan, the final knife. But here's the real kicker. When it came time to walk down the aisle, she didn't show up in her bridesmaid dress. She came wearing my actual wedding gown, the one I had handpicked and kept hidden. She had gone into my closet, taken it, and wore it like it belonged to her. That was the moment I knew I'd made the right call. Guests gasped. My mom nearly fainted, but I kept calm, walked to the front of the aisle in a backup dress I'd brought just in case, and stood in front of all of them, Chloe, Ethan, our families. And I asked the coordinator to play the video. Everyone turned toward the screen. It started with sweet clips, photos of me and Ethan, childhood photos, all set to soft music. But then it shifted. I narrated everything, every message, every lie, every hotel visit. I included screenshots, voice memos, even the message where Chloe said I was too naive. The crowd went silent, then gasps, murmurs. My dad stood up and yelled at Ethan. Chloe turned pale. Ethan tried to walk up to the front, stammering something like, "It's not what it looks like." But no one believed him. I looked them both in the eyes, smiled, and said, "You two deserve each other." Then I walked out, head high, dress flowing, the room behind me exploding in chaos. It was the most empowering moment of my life. After I walked out of that wedding, everything changed. At first, it was quiet. I stayed with a friend for a few weeks just to clear my head. I didn't cry, not like I expected to. I just let it all settle. People started reaching out. Some apologized for not seeing the signs. Others just wanted the inside scoop. But the ones who mattered? They stood by me, and honestly, that meant everything. Chloe tried to text me. Of course she did. Said she panicked, that she didn't think I'd go through with it, and that she missed our friendship. I left her on red. There's nothing left to say. Ethan, he moved out of state. Word is, they didn't last more than a month after the wedding disaster. She cheated on him next. Guess loyalty was never really her thing. Funny how karma works. But here's the truth nobody talks about. Revenge feels satisfying in the moment. But healing is quiet. It's slow. And it's not always pretty. But it's powerful. I went back to school. Took a solo trip I'd always dreamed of. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like myself again. Not someone begging for love, but someone choosing it, starting with me. I don't regret exposing them, not one bit. But if there's one thing I've learned, it's this. Never underestimate your own strength. You can break, rebuild, and come back stronger. And to those listening, if you've ever felt betrayed, blindsided, or pushed aside, just know your comeback story is still being written. Thanks for hearing mine. If you felt something while listening, whether it was anger, heartbreak, or a little fire of your own, go ahead and tap that like button. And if you want more real stories like this one, hit subscribe. I promise this isn't the last jaw-dropper I've got for you. Stay strong, stay sharp, and never let someone steal your worth.